This is the first time we're doing this, Meeting the Missionary. Can we start with you just telling us your name and where you began your missionary journey?
Well, my name is Derek Byrne, and born in Dublin, here in Ireland. And I suppose as I was coming to the end of my secondary school, I felt this call to the priesthood, but very definitely to the missionary priesthood. I remember thinking, I'm not sure yet if I want to be a priest, but if I do want to be a priest, I want to be a missionary priest. So that was where it started, and then I made contact here with St. Patrick's Missionary Society, Kiltegan, and they wrote and sent me information. And I remember it was a priest, in fact, at school who wrote on my behalf, and he said, you get the information first and then you decide if you want to go ahead. So after I read the information, I said, yes, I would like to make further personal contact with them. So I came to Kiltegan, did my studies then here in Ireland, and eventually I was told then, to my big surprise, that I was going to Brazil, because I knew that most of our missions were in Africa, and all through my training I was thinking, this is where I will be going. Yeah. So it was a big surprise to be appointed to Brazil.
And what surprised you most about your first mission, or the people, the culture?
Yeah, I suppose the big shock was, first of all, a feeling of isolation, because I had no Portuguese. I didn't have any word Portuguese when I got there, and it was, and yet I could see that people were very happy, joyful people, very welcoming people. They were really very kind to me, but of course communication was practically impossible. And the first couple of days I was depending totally on my fellow missionaries, Sean Smith, the late Sean Smith, and the late Pat Connolly, who were the two who welcomed me to the parish with them. And initially I was just to stay there until the language course began. I went out to Brazil at the end of November, and the language course everything was finishing at that stage, because it's the academic year follows the calendar year. So there was nothing until the beginning of February. So they were the longest 2 months, I think, that I spent in Brazil. Because of this not being able to communicate. The priests were very good to me when I arrived, but they were busy with their parishes, and they didn't have time to be sitting talking to me. And also, if I wanted to communicate with anybody, I depended totally on them.
So when you did your language course, what was that experience like, learning the language?
Learning the language, well, the one advantage, I've spoken of the disadvantages of 2 months, the long 2 months, but the one big advantage of that was that when I went on the language course, I was determined to learn Portuguese. I knew that without the language, I may as well go home. There was no future for me. So it did serve to encourage me greatly to dedicate myself to the language. And I don't regard myself as having a gift for languages, but I did learn the Portuguese. I studied it very hard and did my very best, and it took a long time, of course, you know. I often feel that when you finish the language course, and obviously then I could communicate a little bit with people, but it was really only then that I started learning the language. And when I came back and I was faced with people that had no English, and I had to communicate, and often it was their first time maybe meeting a priest, you know, and they felt a little bit intimidated and they were kind of confused and therefore reluctant to speak very, very clearly. And I wanted to say to them, please speak clearly and slowly, and I might understand. But you couldn't do that. That would put people off, you know.
And did you have any kind of funny instances of a misunderstanding in the language? Or
Oh, several. I remember one good bit of advice that the late Sean Smith gave me was, he said, don't be afraid to speak out, and you will make mistakes and people will laugh at you, but you have to develop a pretty thick skin from that point of view. So there were many cases where I said something, and of course I wasn't saying it correctly, And one funny one was where I told people I wanted to ask them to stand for the creed, but instead of saying, please stand for the creed, I told them to go walking, So one of my friends corrected me about that afterwards. That was very important to show that you wanted to be corrected, that you accepted correction. But the biggest mistake I suppose I made was I was working on a retreat. This is a little bit more down the road, and I was working on this retreat, and I said I wanted to use the word confusion, and the word for confusion in Portuguese is confusão, but I wasn't sure what the translation was, so I said confusação. So I made confusion out of the word confusion. So the people thought that was hilarious, of course, when they told me about my mistake afterwards. They didn't say anything. I was giving a talk to the young people, and they didn't say anything. I presume they understood what I meant, but the group that was lay group that was helping to coordinate the whole retreat, they had a great laugh about it afterwards at my expense.
What surprised you most about the people in the culture when you went there?
Well, it was their kindness, their happiness, their willingness, their desire to communicate with me and to help me. That was certainly something very, very positive. On the negative side, I found Brazil at that time, now this is going back over 50 years ago, of course, but it was a very male-dominated society, And I remember being in a house, people who were very good friends of mine, but this was one of my first visits to their house, and the wife had 5 children, and she was a stay-at-home mother at that stage, and she was looking after the children. But the husband arrived home, and he sat at the table, and then he started asking her to get him this and get him that, And I found this kind of a little bit upsetting. Couldn't he get up and get it himself? That it was as if like he had been out working and she had been just sitting at home, had nothing to do. So now it was time to jump.
And who were your closest companions in this mission when you first went out?
Well, obviously at the very beginning, my closest companions were my fellow priests, because they were the only ones who spoke English and Portuguese. So they could help me, and they could also translate for me if I wanted to talk to anybody. And they were very helpful and certainly inspiring to, seeing their relationship with the people, and how the Brazilians are a very warm people, and they want to get to know you and all that, So they were, I was very dependent on them at the beginning, but then as I saw their relationship with the people, I thought, well, that's something I would like to have too, So therefore, later on, I became much more dependent on lay people and on the sisters that were there in the parish, Once I could communicate with them in Portuguese, I found myself drawing closer to them and less dependent, and therefore less close to the priest. Not that the priest didn't continue being important. They were fellow society members, fellow Irish and all that kind of thing in those days. But I was able to gravitate more towards the Brazilians, the sisters and the lay people.
Was there a time that the community surprised you with their generosity?
Oh, definitely. Many occasions. I spent 6 years in that first parish, and I had two very difficult experiences. One was a car crash, that I was in hospital and then away from the parish for about a month. And the outpouring of kindness and concern and was really very, I couldn't believe it, in fact. I mean, I wasn't very long there. I wasn't even 3 years in the parish. It was only about 2 years, just coming up on 2 years actually working since I'd come back from the language course, when I had this very serious car accident. And then a few years later I got tuberculosis, because I had been visiting a sanatorium. There was a sanatorium in the parish, and I used to say Mass there every Monday. So that's, I presume, how I managed to catch the tuberculosis. But that also necessitated an absence from the parish for a while. And again, the concern reaching out and the friendliness and people and everything. It was a great experience.
How did you see God at work in the lives of the people you served?
Well, I suppose I could see God working among them and helping them to reach out. From my experience of priesthood at that time, had been kind of, priests in Ireland were quite distant, except, I'm not talking about society priests, but say priests in parishes and all that. They were quite distant and there wasn't much contact. They were very nice and all that, but there was no great contact. With the people, I found them very, very welcoming and very insistent that you come to their home for lunch and regular invitations and all that, and they were also very interested in being involved in parish activities, Not everybody now, but those who were kind of really interested were very much interested and wanted to be taking on responsibilities in the parish. That was something that struck me very, very much, I must say.
And when you were there, was there a person who particularly inspired your faith?
Well, one person, I remember when I was in hospital, I was still very shook from the car accident, and Sunday morning dawned and I went down. I discovered that there was going to be Mass downstairs, and I asked, could I go to Mass? So somebody wheeled me down in a wheelchair to the Mass, and then they left me there. And I remember then, as the first thing was, of course, I like to sing, and when I opened my mouth to sing the hymns, I couldn't sing because I'd lost an awful lot of teeth. So that was kind of quite a shock. But anyway, after the Mass ended, then I suddenly thought, how am I going to get back now to because the ward assistant had left, and I said, I suppose somebody will come down for me eventually, And suddenly there appeared at my side a parishioner, and he had evidently come to visit me, and then discovered I was down at the Mass and came down, and he brought me back. And we went up. I remember going into the elevator, and we went in, and some other man there was another man in the lift, and he said to my friend, "Is that your brother?" And he replied, "More than a brother." And I found that very touching, and even in my state as I was then, that I was finding communication difficult and all that, But it was a very special moment, and that's over 50 years ago now, and I can still remember it very, very clearly.
So that must have been, after your accident, was a hard moment. Were there ever moments where faith felt hard?
Definitely. I'd say the difficulty after the accident obviously was physical and everything like that. But later on, I would think when I came back to Brazil after an absence of 24 years on different society jobs, when I came back, I was sent to an area that we had just opened a mission up in Mato Grosso, which is kind of around the center of Brazil, but I thought we were going to the north of Brazil because it was such a long journey. But in fact, if you looked at the map, we were just gone up a little bit, you know. We were still a long way away from the north of Brazil. But anyway, when I got there, I had been wanting to come back to Brazil for many years, you know. And now suddenly when I was back, and I was in this completely different kind of area, you know. It was an area that had very few priests. And that was why the bishops of Brazil, I discovered subsequently at a meeting, while they had praised the priests, they had spoken of the apparent reluctance of priests, Brazilian priests, to go to the north, to go out to the more farther away regions where there was great shortage of priests, you know. And they had brought this point up, you know, and I suppose that was actually after this happened to me. But I said to myself that time, I wonder, is this going to be too difficult for me, you know? And but anyway, I got through it. Yeah. But it was thanks to the kindness thanks to the grace of God in first instance, and then the people, the warmth of the people, and the support of the people, and the sisters who I was on. For the first time, I was on my own, you know, as regards being a priest. I had never lived on my own, and although that's not the normal experience in our society. Quite frequently, a man goes out to the missions, he spends a while with somebody else, and then he goes off somewhere else and he's on his own, you know. But that wasn't my experience. For the first 30 years, I was living with other priests, you know, and whatever job I was doing, there were other priests around. But then when I went back to Brazil and was sent up to Mato Grosso, it was a totally new experience because now I was living on my own. So
when you were on your own and it was the isolation and you were truly on your own.
Yes.
How did you get the strength?
I suppose, well, through prayer and through the conviction that this was where God wanted me now, you know. But it wasn't easy. I did go through, I'd say, looking back on it, I went through a little bit of a depression and the struggle to kind of to get over it. But then I remember I came home on holidays, and I think that settled me an awful lot. When I went back, I felt much better and much more ready to cope with this. And then after, in fact, I was only on my own for about 3 years, but still they were a long 3 years, you know. Yeah. And then I had the experience, first of all, I had a student came to me doing first missionary assignment, and he was there for about a year. And then another priest was actually sent to the parish as well. So we worked together.
So where was your mission, all your assignments? Tell us about that. Where you initially went to Brazil, then what happened? Yeah,
I was very happy, very happy in Brazil. I was out in São Paulo. I was in the first parish, working in the first parish that the society had taken over. And we were now 19 years in that parish, you know. So we did start thinking that it was time to move, maybe, you know, that the whole generation of people had grown up, young people, that they just thought priests were foreigners, you know. So anyway, we were thinking along those lines, but for a few years yet, kind of thing. But suddenly then I was asked, I came home on holidays and I was asked would I go to the States to do promotion work. And that came like a bolt from the blue. I didn't expect that at all, you know. So I was really surprised, and I was 32 at the time. No, I was 31 at the time that I was asked to go to the States, and it would be the following year that I was to go, you know. So that certainly put me, as I say, it came. I was very happy in the work that I was doing, and wanted to continue it for another few years, you know. But the society asked me to go pretty quickly, so that was a difficult moment. But again, I was very happy once I got to the States, and once I settled in. The initial experience was very difficult because I knew nobody, and it was a whole different kind of setup, you know. But eventually I got to know a lot of people, and a lot of wonderful supporters in our society, people who have helped the missions. And it was that reason, I think, that I realized that everything, the fact that I had been able to train as a priest, be ordained, go to Brazil, all that was due to the generosity of our benefactors. And many of our priests who went out doing this promotion work, that it was thanks to them and the response from the people that I was able to go to Brazil and be there for 6 years and all that. So I kind of thought, well, I'm young, I'm only 31, 32, so maybe it's time to give back. And it's only 3 years. That was what was said to me at the time.
So then after America, then where did you go after that?
Well, first of all, in America, as I say, it was to be 3 years, but then suddenly I was planning on coming home and saying to the Superior General that, you know, that my 3 years will be up now in February. I'd be willing to stay on for the summer if you wish. But he said, oh, well, we're just about to contact you to ask you to do another 3 years, you know. So then it was another 3 years, and then finally I did 10 years in the States. So as I say, it was a great experience and a great meeting so many of our benefactors and so many people who were making great sacrifices because they believed in what we were doing, they believed in our work, and they wanted to help us, you know. So that was a tremendous, wound up being a wonderful experience. I had no wish to stay in the States. I wanted to go back to Brazil, and the Superior General, who was leaving office that year, as I was finishing up in the States, he presented me with a letter reappointing me to Brazil. But unfortunately I didn't get there because at that time we had a chapter and I was elected onto the General Council, and then I was re-elected onto another term. So I was 12 years on the General Council, which was not easy, and I know it was a tremendous privilege, and I'm very grateful for that experience. In fact, all of the experience that I've had have turned out good, but initially were huge challenges because going around, I visited all the parts of Africa where we are working, and so that was a great privilege, and that was a great experience, and I met up with wonderful people, and I got to know more and more of our society members, because when I came on the General Council, I didn't know very many people because I'd been in Brazil, which is a smaller mission, and the States, but I got to know a lot more of our people, and then of course going around and all that, especially so.
Did you ever get back to Brazil after that?
Oh, I did, yeah. I went back after I finished the second term. I did a sabbatical year, and then I was asked to go back to Brazil, and so I went back in 2004, the beginning of 2004, and that, as I said, was at the beginning was a very difficult experience, you know. But then once I got over that, I really enjoyed it, and I was really very settled and very happy to continue for another number of years, you know. I was working in a place called the Diocese of Juína, which was where we'd been approached by the CNBB, by the Bishops' Conference, to take on a mission up there. So I was very happy to continue there for a while.
And you had high points and achievements as well after that?
Yes, I suppose the challenge there was very great, and but I enjoyed the bishop, the late bishop, the first bishop of Juina, Don Franco. He was very welcoming, very supportive, and the people again, very, very supportive. So I was enjoying that and expecting it to continue. And then I got, unfortunately, our bishop died very suddenly. He was only 62, died actually on his birthday. And it was a big shock to everybody. And I was in Ireland when it happened on holiday. And then when I went back, I was very surprised to discover that my name was being talked about, you know. And shortly after he died, another bishop in the region was killed in a car accident. So they were actually looking for two bishops at the one time. And when I heard that my name, at first I took it as a joke, really, you know. We'd never had a bishop in Brazil from the society, you know. We'd had a number of bishops in Africa, but I didn't see any. The former bishop used to joke about it, you know. What I felt was a joke about it. But anyway, it happened, and it was a huge surprise when I got the call from the nuncio and asking him to come and see me. To come and see him, I mean. So that was a very big surprise.
A big honour.
It was a big honour, yeah, but also something at this stage I was 60. As I said to the nuncio when he met me, I said, I'm 60. I'm going to be 61 next month. I said, I think I'm a bit old for this, you know. So he said, oh, nonsense. He said, you have 14 years. Kind of almost as if is 14 years not enough for you, you know, because bishops have to resign at 75.
Okay.
But anyway, that also, it brought a lot of challenges, certainly, a lot of challenges. And also, I was involved in the restructuring of the dioceses in the region. It wasn't functioning, it wasn't working very well, really, you know. So at one point, then one of the bishops said to me, look, now is the opportunity. Why don't you draw up some kind of a plan, a suggestion? So I did it, and I brought it to the bishops' meeting, and I expected that there'd be a lot of discussion about it and all that. Everybody thought my proposal was very good, and it was accepted. So there were still hiccups along the way, but it eventually did happen, and I had been Bishop of Girothinga for 5 years at that stage, and then I became the first bishop of this new diocese of Primavera do Leste. Primavera do Leste means spring, and Paranachinga, which was the name of a prelacy that was being raised to the status of a diocese, but with the seat of the diocese not in Paranachinga but in Primavera do Leste. That caused its own problem too, of course, you know. People were a bit disappointed that now the new bishop isn't going to be living with us like the other bishop did. You know. But the fact that there had been over a year vacancy, you know, I suppose that helped too, you know. So,
looking back on your mission life, what did it teach you about God, mission life itself?
The mission life, I suppose what it taught me about God in my own personal journey, my own personal faith, was that God is there, God is everywhere. We don't bring God to Brazil or to Nigeria or to Kenya or whatever. God is there. And we facilitate the people in getting to know God, in opening themselves to God, in giving themselves to God. But God is there before us, you know. We're not the ones who are. And also that God is with the people, that when I look back now on all my years, and I'm still in Brazil, but in a lesser role, I realize how much I've learned from the people about God and their faith in God.
And so how did living in the different countries you've lived in change you as a person?
Well, it changed me as a person now. I suppose it made me more adaptable, that I was able to adapt to the different situations, and that was each time was a challenge. But again, thanks to the people, I have very good friends. Even looking back now, I can see I still have very good friends in the countries where I worked, and people whose friendship that I value, and especially in Brazil. And my role at the moment is a lesser role, that I'm just kind of support person to the new mission that we opened in the prelacy of Tefé in the Amazon region. And I'm living in Manaus, which is the capital city of the Amazon. It's a city of about 3 million people, and I'm living in an apartment that is there for the guys whenever the men want to come from the mission areas. The mission area is very far away from me, because it's an hour's flight from Manaus, which is the city I'm living in, the capital of the Amazon. It's an hour's flight to Tefé, and then from Tefé you go by land, by lancha, by boat, a big boat, to one of the journeys is 6 hours and the other journey is 10 hours to visit I've only been to the one just only 6 hours away. Our society leader was out on a visit and we all met there. So I was over for that meeting. But it's tremendous to see now the enthusiasm of our younger members, and working together. We have in the new mission area, we have 5. We have one Irish who's a little bit younger than me, but over 70. And then there are 2 Nigerians, a Kenyan, and a Malawian priest. That's the group between the 2 parishes. So it's great to be watching them and see they're recently ordained, all of them, and apart from one who is a bit longer ordained, and he's the leader of the mission.
If you could thank the people that you served, what would you say?
Oh, well, I would, of course, first say a very sincere thank you. I realize now that when I went out first, when I was a young missionary, that at times I didn't have the proper degree of patience. I suppose it possibly came from my own insecurities, and that it was difficult, I probably was difficult, But, so that would be one thing that I'd like to recognize. And the other is to thank the people for their kindness, for their goodness, for their welcome, and for their patience with me.
And how would you like to be remembered in the mission you served?
As somebody, I suppose, who believes in God and came in a desire to share this faith, to support this faith, to help people to discover this faith, and always ready and willing to learn from them. My work now in Manaus has been, apart from giving the support to the new mission, my work has been I help out in the diocese. At the request of the Archbishop, I've done a few confirmations, and the priests know I am there and that I can be called on to say a Sunday Mass or whatever, So that's a great experience too. I'm enjoying that, and meeting these people and being with them and part of their journey, you know. And it still continues to be a tremendous privilege to accompany people on their journey as I continue my own journey.
So you keep in touch with a lot of people still from your mission, like you've made friends that you've kept up the friendship
Oh yes,
for years.
yeah. I have very good friends from the parish that I worked in first, and we communicate quite regularly, and I visit them usually when I go over to Brazil. If I'm down, when I'm up in the Amazon region, I can't really get down to visit people but I'm hoping now when I return, I'm returning to Brazil next week, and I'm hoping to go up and visit the place where I was bishop for 14 years. So it'll be a great opportunity to meet some of my friends again and some of the people, and then I've been back to Cochia, which was the first parish that I worked at down in São Paulo. I've been back several times over the many years that have passed since I finished there in 1980. That's over 40 years ago. So this will be my first time now going back to Primavera, since I was present at my successor's installation as bishop, and that'll be just 2 years ago now.
Well, thank you very much for your time and all your stories on the missions. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you very much.